So, in today's message, we are in week 6 of our book that we're going through, right? Which puts us in chapters 9 and 10 of the book of John. Is that where everybody else is at? Okay. So, before I give my short little thing, does anybody have any verses, any questions, anything that we're going to be bringing up to discussion, which might not happen until next week, but anybody have anything in their readings that they're ponderous thoughts on? No? None? Okay. I even had a pen out today. I was ready. All right. Are you all with me here? Because this is a deeply profound part of the Gospel of John. Do this very quickly. Read this again. Told myself I was going to do this today. Here we go. Chapter 20, verse 30. Therefore, many other signs Jesus also performed in the presence of the disciples, which are not written in this book. But these have been written so that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you may have life in his name. Read that multiple times, right? This is why the Apostle John wrote, right? That you may know that Jesus is the Lord. Story in chapter 9. One of the most profound stories. And one of the most profound stories because you sing about it all the time. You never even think about it. We're going to do a verse of a song together. You ready? I'm thinking at least 75% of the people in this room know this song. Maybe more. If you know it, sing with me. Just one verse. Okay, ready? Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Stop right there. There was a blind man who could not see from birth. The Pharisees, the Jews, said that he was blind. Why? Because of sin. And not even his sin, right? The sins of his forefathers. And therefore he carried this sin in his blindness. And nobody could heal him. And then Jesus comes along and he heals him. And everybody knew this guy. Everybody knew he was blind from birth. His parents come. They said, well, this is him. He's blind. He was blind. Now he's not blind. And he says, because of Jesus, I was blind and now I see. Look at the transformation in my life, not because of anything that has happened of this world, but because of my belief and my faith and my obedience of Jesus Christ. He is the Lord. They start arguing with him. Throw him out. Moses couldn't heal anybody. This isn't Moses. Abraham couldn't heal. This isn't Abraham. This is Jesus. We'll go back to that song, Amazing Grace, for a minute. What does it say right before it says, I was blind and now I see? What are the words? I was lost. Now I'm found. And Jesus tries to explain this whole thing over and over and over again. And they keep asking him. He goes, look, I've told you and you don't want to hear it. They ask the blind man. He goes, I've told you the story so many times. Why don't you want to believe it? If you want to stay lost, you don't want to hear the truth. If we jump into another verse, another gospel, we say the truth will set us free. The truth will set you free. If you're willing to hear it. And so when we go into this whole study, we're going to go into it a little bit more in depth next week. I don't want to get into a ton of it this week. But for those of you who haven't got up into this chapter 6 yet of this book, they start talking about sheep. Because Jesus is talking about sheep. And it talks about how a sheep will hear the voice of the shepherd. And they will listen to the voice of the shepherd. There was one profound thing that was said in this book that I want to really get into a little more in depth next week. But for us to do it, we have to reflect on where we are right now. And this is what I'm going to ask you guys, to reflect on this. Okay? And I'll give you one little story. A sheep will obey the shepherd. A sheep that hears the shepherd's voice and knows that that's the shepherd. That's who I trust. That's who I know is going to take care of me. They just do what the shepherd says. They don't feel like, well, I should, maybe I should do what the shepherd says. They will do what the shepherd says. For those of you who have dogs, this is my one little story. Because we have a 14-year-old dog. You all know Sassy. Most of you have met Sassy. Her name is fitting at this stage of her life. Because she can hear me at times when she's misbehaving. I'll call her name, like, Sassy, Sassy, don't. Sassy has a love for bunny poop. So I'm running her out back. I don't want her to eat the bunny poop. But she likes it. I yell at her. Kathy yells at her, right? Don't eat the bunny poop. And the thing is, you can see her head turn. You see her ears turn. You know she hears us. Right? She's like, all right, the master's telling me this. Maybe I should do this, but I sort of really, all right, fine. I'll come over. Reluctantly, I'll walk. This is Sassy walking back home. Fine. I'm coming any second. Wait, what's that? I hear you. I'm coming. This may seem silly, but this is how most of us are with Jesus. I hear you. I'm coming. What's that? I hear you. I'm coming. And I pondered this for a moment. And this is where I want to go. I'm going to say this again in my own brain so I don't keep going today. Next week. The idea of freedom. That are we free? That we have free will. Which we do. But as I was reading through this and they were talking about what a sheep will do in terms of the shepherd, you're thinking, well, that's sort of in captivity. Because you're just doing whatever the shepherd tells you to do. But when the shepherd is telling you to live a joyous life and know that you're taken care of, right? Because if you think about the sheep out the pasture, they want for nothing else. We joked about that with Sassy today. She doesn't know it's cold out. All she knows is my master's brought me food and I have a warm place and they love me and they rub my belly and I'm going to get to sleep today and I will see them later. She has no clue there's even a big storm coming, right? But everything within the realm of what we can see and understand and comprehend is absolutely joyful if we obey Him. Now, people who decide not to follow Jesus Christ, to not accept that Jesus is the Lord, can sit there and go, but I can do all this other stuff in my life. I am free of all of this. And I say, oh no, you're not free from any of it. Because if it has a hold on you, then you are servant to it. Let's talk about the easy extremes that we bring up. Let's talk about addictions. Right? I can drink alcohol anytime I want to. Except when the alcohol is telling you you need to drink it. Right? I don't care what the addiction is. I don't care if it's drugs, if it's marijuana, and I know some people say marijuana is not addictive. Cigarettes, pornography, right? Alcohol, gambling, food. There are so many things in our lives that have a hold on us that we say we have freedom from. Because I can make my own choices. I can do what I want. But you don't. And every single one of those things will lead you away from Jesus Christ. And when I say every single one of those things, I'm naming all the things that we're not talking about today. All the simple little things. The things when you know Jesus, you've accepted Jesus, but you still don't hear his voice. To him, he's still a foreign shepherd. You don't recognize his voice. And we all sit here and, sort of ponder it in our brain. I don't know. I want you to ponder this because next week I want to talk about it a little bit more in depth. I don't want to sugarcoat how important this is. Because this is the thing that leads other people to Jesus Christ. I want to close with this last question. I'm not going to read all of chapter 9 of the Gospel of John today. And I know that not everybody in this room has read chapter 9 of the Gospel of John recently. Some of us are behind on our Bible study. I get it. But for those of you who have, and those of you who will be doing it shortly, if I talk about the blind man who can now see, what can you tell me about his life outside of Jesus? What does Scripture say about him?
He was a beggar.
He was a beggar, right?
There's not really much about it.
Not really much about it.
That's not important.
There you go. That's not important. Those that knew he was a beggar know that he won't be a beggar now. His life has changed. People that know you, what is the reflection of your life? What do people see in the absolute transformation of our lives? If you want to know how significant it is, I'll always be willing to use myself, my own shortcomings as an example. I'm a pastor. Pat myself on the back. I went to seminary. Ooh. But in how I live my life and how I get active in things and how things happen out there, you know how many times people don't know? They don't even know that I'm a pastor. They don't know I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. There's still people who come to the hospital. Oh, you're the mountain bike dude. Yeah, that's part of who I am. Don't take offense to it. But that's how I've reflected my life to them. So I'm going to ask you to ponder this coming week. And you know what? Take a few notes on it. Write some things down. Beat yourself up a little bit. Who are you? And how can you let Jesus shine through that? Because who you are is not a bad thing. You know, if you went to like some therapy session, they would have you do this wheel, right? It's an exercise you can do. You draw this big wheel and you make all these wedges like a pie, okay? And then in each of those sections of the pie, you write down who you are. You know, she'd write down, you know, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, you know, I'm a whatever your job title is that you have no title to, right? You're a mountain biker. You write all these things, and inside that box, you know, you would probably write down, I'm a Christian. That's how most people would do it. Here's the growth I want out of this when we understand that Jesus Christ is the Lord and we are called to follow and obey Him joyfully. That when we do this wheel, because I might actually try to do this by the end, and I want to be able to do this wheel, and the one thing we don't write in any of the wedges is that we're a Christian. But in the center of that whole wheel, we draw a circle that touches every other single part of our lives, and we say we are a follower of Jesus Christ. And that reflects on everything else that we do.
Kind of like a Sunday school song, this little light of mine.
Let's let it shine, right? But sometimes we got to get dirty to see how we're going to make that actually happen. And I have a couple examples I'm going to save for next week of ways that I try to do that. And sometimes fail, but that's why we lift each other up, right? So there's a lot more to this section, you know, because it is. If I read the first part of it, the title of it was "Running Your Own Life or Obeying God." We can say we know God and we know Jesus, but are we obeying Him in all that we do?
Can I add to part of your wheel that I feel like might be beneficial? I mean, you can cut it out of your video.
Oh no, I'll put your camera today.
You don't have to do that. I was just going to say, on the outside of your wheel, of all of the things you are, our center is Jesus Christ. The next level is all the ways that, you know, we are who we are through our jobs, through our families, through being a parent, all of the ways that we are. And then on the outside of the wheel, as you match up, you're a mom. What is it that you do to show others, show your family that they're loved? What is it that you do at work when someone comes in, you know, in my circumstance, might give hope to somebody who's feeling really crummy right now, and help them to know that I understand and look forward to seeing them feeling better. I mean, just with each one of those things you make mention, how do you show the love of Christ within that area? I think we might actually surprise ourselves as to how many ways we actually do and how we can refine it.